M&As are back in Quebec City. The National Assembly is back in session. Yesterday, we heard from Premier François Legault, who gave an inaugural speech. To talk more about this, we are joined by political analyst Raphael Melancon. So, Raphael, the Premier seems to be very focused on economy, but he also talked about protecting Quebec's identity and culture. What did you make of his speech?
Well, Matt, obviously we have here in front of us a government that's trying to probably shift towards the right the right side of the political spectrum here. Obviously, when we hear François Legault talking about law and order, reforming or modernizing unions in Quebec, when he talks about fighting radical Islamism, that is certainly things that we signal certainly a shift towards the right here from François Legault, because he needs to regain certainly the control over the political agenda in Quebec City, but also appeal to the core of his party, those who used to vote not only for the CQ in the past, but also for the ADQ prior to the creation of the CQ. So people who are really at the core of those who usually vote for that party, for François Legault's party, trying to bring them back to his party, because those people have fled in the past few months, trying to seek alternatives, maybe being interested leaning towards, for instance, the Quebec Conservative Party, Éric Duhaim's party, especially in the greater Quebec City region. So he's trying to reach out to those people who used to vote to his party, saying we are back to our core values, and going back to promising major changes to Quebec society. And this is what we're going to do towards the next following months, because let's not forget that we have an election planned in just a year from now.
Yeah, almost exactly a year from now. Anything stand out to you in this speech? Was there perhaps something missing from the speech that surprised you, or you would have liked to have heard the Premier mention?
Not necessarily things that were missing, but the main thing that struck me is that François Legault is really full on being open to taking big risks this year, even if it risks maybe creating a press or some distraction or even some discontent within the population, within part of the population. When he's tackling, for instance, unions, this is certainly something that will be a major fight for the CQ government, and it could lead to a major battle with union leaders. So this is a major risk for the CQ, but at the same time, if we look at the polls, if we look at the projections, François Legault has almost nothing to lose at this point. So either he makes gains and finally makes the needle moves and make the needle move in the polls, or if not, at least he will get out of office being able to say that at least I had the courage to do what I promised to do, which is to bring major change, and we've done everything we could possibly to do to implement those changes that we believed in for Quebec society.
Members of First Nations communities were wearing orange shirts yesterday, but they were refused access to the National Assembly to listen to the Premier's speech. How concerning is this, in your opinion?
Nonsense, really nonsense, because let's remind our viewers that the reason why they were not allowed is that someone at the security of the National Assembly thought that it was political messages that were written on their orange T-shirts, and that's not allowed in the National Assembly. But of course, these people were there with their T-shirts to commemorate the memories of those who were persecuted in the past, of those who have been through pension schools and stuff like that in the past, horrors of colonization. So, and especially on this special day of truth and reconciliation, this is total nonsense. Of course, the government was not involved in the decision. It's a zealous public servant who did not properly do his job, but that should never have happened. Total nonsense here.
Political analyst Raphael Melancon, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure, Matt. See you next time.